Hi everyone, I'm Noelle Atchison on behalf of CoinDesk Studios at the Stellar Meridian event in Madrid. And I am here with Carmen Hett, Treasurer of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, basically the UN refugee agency known as UNHCR. Carmen, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for me to be here, especially at the Stellar event. So UNHCR, of course, since some time now has been using blockchain. So we are very excited to bring blockchain to the real use of refugees and displaced people. So more recently, in December 22, UNHCR launched its first of its kind use case in Ukraine for internally displaced people. So we can deliver right to their device, which is the phone, actually the money, the aid, there and then, as and when needed. So that's, to us, this really provides exciting opportunities to look at this use case, and even more so, obviously, how we can expand on that use case and scale. So scalability, traceability, accountability in these use cases is obviously paramount to us.
So much to unpack there. This is a project that is already in production. It is being used today. It's off the drawing board, and people are receiving the aid. Could you please tell me why did the UNHCR choose blockchain as the main gateway, the main rails for this project?
Yeah, probably today it's not the main gateway, if you like. It's one of the gateways that we have available. The key is always that we need to make or ensure ourselves that it's really relevant for the people that we care for, and obviously it has to be usable. So in each context, we make sure that we responsibly do that. And in this case here, it is in production, like you said, and now at this point in time, we need to see what we can learn from it. Also, of course, digital literacy is very important. So the people who actually receive it, we give them a chance, in that sense, to become much more knowledgeable in financial education, but also in digital education. So it goes hand in hand. The scalability at this point will be dependent how we can integrate fully this solution much more on a wider scale. So when we make these decisions, we need to make sure that we can deliver the aid where it's needed and as and when it's needed. In this case here, as you know, we have record amount of people being displaced. It's 110 million people that are displaced. So we cannot take care of everyone, the 110 million, but we take care of an amazing amount of people, depending on the funding that we're actually receiving. And the viewers obviously know we have emergencies all the time. So we have emergencies more recently in Morocco, in Libya, and it also provides us with a good tool going forward how we can actually fundraise as well. So it's not just about money going out, it's actually also how we can fundraise, since we got the rails established that give us traceability.
And on the fundraising, do you find that how do donors react to the idea of using blockchain for the distribution?
Yeah, of course, it's also about demystifying the blockchain. And of course, everyone is a little bit intrigued. So how does that work? Well, in my way of explaining is that it is an operating system that is a system like any other system. So it's not about the crypto use. In this case here, we are providing digital currency, the USDC, into Ukraine, and we are using the Stellar wallet, the Vibrant wallet, and the cash-out options were very important to be designed, because the cash-out option make it actually usable for people to consume this aid. And so the key is that currently, so the cash-out options are in fiat. So we have a bridge between digital and fiat, and an option actually to transfer the money directly on their existing accounts. So we give options, and obviously the more options we can give, the better the tool is actually adaptable also going forward. So the emphasis is really on the options and the system really executing there and then, within minutes, we can actually deploy that aid. So if anyone is watching us today, in that sense, if we have the funds, we can deploy the funds right there and then.
And does the transparency that blockchain applications can offer, does that come into the conversations with donors?
Yes, of course. So this is for donors paramount that we have traceability. Every dollar that we deliver, that the dollar is traceable, and obviously that we can report very quickly upon the delivery. So this is paramount. And I think going forward, the opportunity is if any of us would want to actually contribute, how little that could be, it could be $100 and so forth, we would want to know exactly my $100 really went to that cause. So I think the power of this traceability, the speed, and also obviously at lower cost. So if you like, the blockchain, it's actually hard not to sell it as a solution because it makes sense and it reaches the people in need. So it is the most effective, efficient way of doing it. There's no doubt.
But you touched on something very interesting, which is that the end recipient, she doesn't care very much whether it's blockchain or traditional fiat rails. They're looking at the result. But the donors, the front-end users, they're the ones who want to be sure that the funds are going. Fundraising is especially difficult in this, especially if, when economic uncertainty is taking over. But the need, as you stressed in the beginning, is more and more important. And I want to ask you about the scalability issues, but I also want to touch on how does this fit in to the United Nations goals of sustainability and development?
Yes. So in the first instance, when we have a crisis, a humanitarian crisis, aid needs to flow. But thereafter, of course, like any of us, we have to look at our livelihoods and so have people, refugees or internally displaced people. So the key is that if we make these solutions much more inclusive for people to go about their lives economically and financially, that means we actually contribute direct to the Sustainable Development Goals. And obviously, we are fighting hunger. We are also fighting poverty, inclusiveness for women, equality. And it gives really the opportunities that everyone should have out there to go about their own lives. So if you like, it's not like people waiting for aid to come to them. They can then actually go about their lives. So I think this is a very compelling reason that technology can really sort of enable this much more than traditional rails.
Unfortunately, the scale of the issues that you're trying to tackle here is vast, and again, unfortunately, is unlikely to diminish in the coming years. What do you see the biggest barrier to scalability of this application?
Yeah, I think the scalability is there. I think the barriers are more to the extent that the adoption or the compliance requirements in particular countries, of course. So we are talking about our use case is in Ukraine. But if you go then across other jurisdictions, you do actually have to make sure that you are within compliance. And obviously the people we care for, we also want them to be in compliance, so we don't want to unnecessarily expose them to issues that they were not contemplating with. So I think the biggest barrier is really the regulatory framework, and obviously as well, I think one side of that coin is also, whether we deliver aid in hard currency or in local currency. So immediately we are in a spectrum which has to do with monetary policy, economic policy. We are influencing directly the macroeconomics and the business community in that particular country. So seemingly, when you think of it, aid assistance has to flow to the needy at that very moment. But going forward, it has far-reaching impacts for the factors, so that you could imagine that every dollar creates $3 in the country. So it's a multiplier effect.
And not to mention the bottom line of actually helping people.
Yes.
Which is one of the overriding missions, not just of the United Nations, but many others. And when part of the off-ramping, I guess, the last mile, that very difficult problem to solve, would involve different types of partnerships, I expect, with various fiat providers as well. What would your advice be to companies that want to work with the UN on something like this?
Yeah. So we need to have partnerships, public-private partnerships that are responsibly delivering, and obviously also are responsibly looking at the requirements and the needs that we in particular have, and also the people, obviously the people we care for. So the key is that we need to have solutions that actually really work. So we are not, I said that before, we're not in the business of 80%, we're in the business of 100%. So every dollar really needs to get there. So the key is that if the economy is still geared up to fiat currency, so we need to have off-ramps that are in fiat. If that particular jurisdiction is geared up to digitally consume the aid, then that can be done as well. So it really needs to be optimally integrated. So the integrations have to be seamless, and of course the user interface also needs to be designed to the extent that it's easy to use.
Complex, but so important and with absolutely vast potential. I could talk to you about this for hours, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. So Carmen, seriously, thank you so much for sharing your time and experience with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for joining us.